Something weird is happening in Lake Oswego real estate, and it breaks every single rule you've learned about markets. Even if prices are kind of stable, sellers are getting desperate and buyers are finding new opportunities. What is really going on? In this video, I will show you the hidden forces keeping this market frozen and why it is such an unusual time for Lake Oswego right now. Let me start with the most surprising piece of this puzzle. Hi guys, Chris Larson, Mr. Lake Oswego, giving you another quick update as to what's happening in Lake Oswego, Oregon's real estate market. For years, Lake Oswego was synonymous with rapid price growth. Double-digit annual increases were the norm. But in 2025, that storyline changed completely. Our median home price range in Lake Oswego sits around the mid-800,000s. It's down just about 1% year over year. Different data sources show slightly different numbers, but the trend is still the same. Prices have basically leveled off after years of rapid climbs. We just couldn't sustain it. The city of Lake Oswego proper had a median of around $860,000, down around 1.5% from the year before. Now, a 1% to 1.5% dip might not sound that dramatic, but when you compare it to the market Lake Oswego experienced before 2021, this is a huge seismic shift. We're talking about a market that once saw price jumps of 20% to 30%, and even more in some neighborhoods during the pandemic boom. There is a segment that's an exception to this, but we'll talk about that later. So the weird part is that this price stability is happening while the market shows clear signs of cooling. Typically, when you see slower sales and rising inventory, prices follow. In Lake Oswego, they're just holding kind of steady. That disconnect is basically what makes this market feel so unusual right now and really frustrating. I'll tell you exactly what this means at the end. But first, let's see what else is going on in this big picture. Inventory has risen into what I would consider a balanced range. For years, Lake Oswego was defined by one word: shortage. There simply were not enough homes to meet demand. Buyers often competed like they were on a game show, submitting offers sight unseen. But this scenario has changed a ton. More importantly, months of inventory climbed into a more balanced range. For context, 4 to 6 months is generally considered a balanced market. We are really right in that zone right now. This is a massive change from the extremely tight conditions that defined Lake Oswego from 2019 through 2022. Back then, inventory was measured in weeks, not months. What this means in practical terms is choice. Buyers finally have options. They can really take their time making decisions. Let's take a quick pause here, though. The price dynamics we just covered are exactly why right now is tricky for buyers and sellers in Lake Oswego. Okay, back to my video. Homes are taking much longer to sell. During the peak demand years, Lake Oswego homes moved really fast. We're talking under a week in many cases. But as you might have guessed, those days are gone. We're seeing around 92 days pending status in the last few months, sometimes even more. That's a pretty substantial slowdown. And here's why it really matters. Longer days on the market shift negotiating power. Sellers can't really rely on instant demand anymore. Buyers have breathing room to evaluate properties carefully. They compare their options now and they want to make informed decisions without feeling rushed. And let me tell you something, buyers are really picky right now. But there's a deeper issue at play here, one that impacts how successful sellers are in this market. Sellers are just not pricing correctly, and that is creating a huge domino effect for them. When a home hits the market, the first few weeks are really critical. That's when buyer interest is highest. But if a property is overpriced, buyers simply move on, so the listing just sits. Many sellers still have 2021 in their mind. They remember when homes sold instantly, or they have a specific break-even point, and their agent just isn't strong enough to explain why that doesn't match today's market. So then what happens? The home sits for 2 months, maybe 3. Eventually, the seller agrees to a price reduction, but by that point, buyers are skeptical. They wonder what's wrong with a property. So the seller ends up chasing the market down and often nets less than they would have if they had priced correctly from the start. The stats back all of this up. On average, the first price reduction happens around the 3rd month. By then, buyer doubt has already set in. At 3 months, buyers go for the jugular. However, there is a twist to these pending sales. There's this weird combination of factors going on, and sellers are very confused. Let's look at the data. Recently closed sales dropped year over year. Fewer completed transactions means fewer buyers and sellers successfully meeting in the middle. So when sales volume drops while inventory goes up, you typically expect downward pressure on prices. But as we've already covered, Lake Oswego hasn't experienced that in any meaningful way. Now, here's another twist. While closed sales fell, pending sales actually increased year over year. That suggests continued buyer interest despite the overall slowdown. People still want to live in Lake Oswego, and there's more. The luxury market is performing surprisingly well. At the end of 2025, luxury sales across Lake Oswego were up year over year. The luxury segment is prospering. Buyers with cash have a lot of negotiating power, and the median sales price for luxury homes in December was actually up year over year. On the opposite end of the spectrum, first-time buyers can finally enter the market at a lower price point for the first time in years. That wasn't even possible during the pandemic era. So, you've got activity at both ends. Luxury buyers are making moves and first-time buyers are finding opportunities again. But in the middle is where the hesitation lives. And brings us to the most important question. What's the long-term prediction here? What can we expect for 2026 and on into 2027? Let's break it down. You've got cooling indicators across the board, higher inventory, longer days on market, and fewer closed sales. In most markets, that combination produces lower prices. Supply exceeds demand. But Lake Oswego isn't following that script. Prices have remained surprisingly resilient, showing only minor decline or flat movement. Our city is very hyper-local. So why aren't prices dropping more seriously? The answer is Lake Oswego's fundamentals. Best public schools in Oregon, a safe community, and lots of friendly neighbors. High construction costs also play a key role in keeping prices stable. Building new homes is expensive, which creates a sort of floor for pricing. Sellers can afford to wait. All of these factors combined create a market where buyers feel hesitant and sellers feel frustrated. And yet, prices remain surprisingly strong because the underlying demand drivers are still intact. So it's a transitional moment where the typical rules don't apply. Lake Oswego is neither hot nor cold. It's balanced, but it feels uncertain, and that uncertainty is exactly why this market feels so weird right now. Okay, here's the bottom line. That's where we are right now, but there's no need to panic. We have options. If you're looking to sell this spring, please reach out to me. But if you want a very optimistic and exciting look into 2026, check out what's next for Lake Oswego and how the market could change. Thanks so much for watching.